So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé K. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 10, Episode 2 of 90 Day Fiancé. No new couples get introduced this week, but we do check in with our other couples from last week. Jasmine arrives in Cold Hell, aka Michigan. Manuel does not start off on the right foot by rejecting both black cats and witchcraft. Sophie and Rob get stuck in the airport elevator. And Igor, and his friends set up a thirst trap for some old Moldovan guys. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dunces, and life lessons. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
Cold. It just all of a sudden got cold today. This week. Yeah, like I got up and because I have my alarm clock like reads me the news when I wake up, and like it tells me the weather, and it's like that's always the days when it's like this is the time of year where I start to hate it because it's like and a high of 48, and I was like, damn it!
Oh no, that sounds awful. No, thank you.
So actually, that's a good segue into one of our couples. Actually,
yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about Gino and Jasmine.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yes, right. Michigan. So cold.
Michigan. Right. So we open with Jasmine showing us her new look. So she has no hair extensions or wigs, just her natural shoulder-length hair with some pretty aggressive bangs. So she says that it's a way for her to exert control after all these fights with Gino. And by control, it basically means it's one fewer thing that she has to rely on Gino for money for.
Yeah.
Instead of her extensions. So she tells us that leaving everything in Panama is very hard, and today's the day to leave. But she was hesitant before, but she's going to do it. So there's lots of crying and hugs when she leaves from her sisters, and she still makes it to the airport with Coco for her one-stop flight to Detroit. So we go to Gino's place where he's got lots of Panamanian flags everywhere. But he's not sure what's going on because evidently him and Jasmine got in a fight last night and she blocked him on WhatsApp, which he unsurprisingly knows exactly how to tell whether someone's blocked you on WhatsApp.
God. Yeah.
Not his first rodeo. So he has to go to the airport to attempt to pick her up anyway, just assuming that she made her flight, even if he's not sure she made it. So he posts up at the baggage carousel with flowers and is feeling pretty nervous since, they literally have 90 days to figure everything out. So, of course, she did make the flight, and we catch her walking through the airport. So she insists that blocking him wasn't really like a bad decision. It wasn't mean. It's just like part of their fighting ritual. Like she has to keep the fight from getting out of control. So she just blocks him, and then she has some time, in this case, a whole international flight time to settle down. So now everything's better. Not perfect. She's still mad about whatever it was. We never even found out what they were fighting over, but It's good. So Gino is on the other side of security doors. Yeah, seeming like all by himself. That always confuses me when they're in the airport alone. I was like, didn't she just get off of a plane full of people? Where's everybody else on this plane?
Right.
So she comes out and they run to hug each other. And she kind of has a stroller that with Coco's carrier, and she kind of lets it go, and it just like goes like 20 feet past Gino, just like down the airport.
Bye, Coco.
Bye, Coco. Yeah. They're both super pumped that Jasmine's finally in the States, and she says she looks forward to sucking on his tongue every night and also other things. And she's like, but I'm not going to talk about that. I was like, I think you just did, though.
Yeah.
I think you know what you're talking about. So it takes some prompting for him to notice her new haircut, but he's very enthused about her natural hair. So they make a pinky promise that they're going to get into no more crazy fights. So that pinky promise is going to... I don't trust that pinky promise at all.
I was going to say, how long is that going to last?
So now, of course, they have 90 days to get married. For her first impression of things, Jasmine is looking forward to seeing... She's like wondering, I wonder how good his house smells. So in the airport, Jasmine later, as they're walking to the car, is like, it's pretty chilly. Is it because of the weather or is this the air conditioning? And he's like, the air conditioning. But actually, it's not even the air conditioning. It's the heat. Because when they finally do get outside, she's just like, what? Why is it so cold? And this is the parking garage. She's like, just completely shattered at how cold it is and that she can see smoke coming out of Gino's mouth because it's so cold. She's like, what? Look at your mouth. There's smoke. What is this? She's pretty sure that if she ever even steps outside here, she's just going to die of hypothermia immediately. Like, she's like, I'm not ready for this. So the heater and the seat warmers in the car make it more comfortable, even though she does describe the entire landscape of Michigan as it's like hell, but if hell was winter. It's cold. Just depression in the landscape is what she says. So she doesn't understand why people live in a place that she feels God has made pretty clear that no one is supposed to live here. Why are you here? So then they get to the house, and now it's time to bitch about everything there. So they go in through the laundry room. The Panama flag he has is upside down. The walls are awful colors. Everything's dusty. Everything's smelly. And then she makes fun of him for how much canned food and like trash, like Target bags he has in the kitchen. And she says she didn't have high expectations for the house at all, but it still doesn't meet them. It's way worse than she thought. There's going to have to be some changes. And we're still not done with the complaining about the house. Like even Coco was so nervous about the house. He's peeing on the carpet, which she tries to say that was there before. And he was like, nope.
Why don't you put your finger in it?
I don't
see what it
touch
is.
It and smell it. It's like,
God.
So they go upstairs to the bedroom with his unimpressive view of dead trees and the toilet, which still has shit in it for some reason.
Oh my God, Gino, you're disgusting.
Which at least she was laughing about it, I guess. She likes the bathroom. The bathroom is probably her favorite part of the house, even if it does need a complete renovation. Like has old sinks and faucets, linoleum tile, just not great, but plenty of space to put in what she wants. So they get to the bed and he reassures her that she's like, how old is this bed? And he was like, after my divorce. It was after my divorce. I got it after that. So definitely not the bed I share with my ex-wife. No. Even though we probably should wash the sheets because I use lots of lotion.
Ew, gross. He didn't say for what, but he
didn't say for what, but he said why are these spots on your bed at crotch level of the bed, let's say.
Oh,
and
God.
he was like, I use
Very
a lot
concerning.
of lotion. We're like, So she says she wants a new bed, one that's better suited for a married couple, which I guess means a bigger bed because I don't know if it's a double or a queen, but
yeah, definitely looks smaller.
Anyway, he's starting to get flustered because okay, all these things she wants cost money. And of course, she's giving him the standard guilt trip she also gives of, you wouldn't buy this thing for your wife that says she wants it, who moved from Panama for you. So at this time, he's like, the other thing is he hasn't told her he quit his job. So money's going to be even tighter. So he's just getting that flustered Gino look. All right. So we got Gino's house. I mean, it's exactly what I would expect Gino's house to look like, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, what were your impressions of the living situation we have here?
None of this segment surprises me, right? His house doesn't surprise me. The poop in the toilet, I think, was the most surprising thing. And then what was really weird to me when they showed a picture of the toilet after he flushed, there was no water in the toilet because they were trying to say, oh, it's disgusting anyway. And I'm like, where's the water? Like sitting in the toilet. But I mean,
I thought there was, but it also had the toilet needed to get brushed. Like very much so.
You need a replacement at that point. That is beyond brushing. That is beyond anything a brush can help you out. I would even question, they have the pumice stones now for your toilet to like scratch off the rings. Like that is beyond a pumice stone too. Like there's no way. You just got to get a new toilet at that point. You've let it go far too long.
Well, I mean, it's probably, I'm looking at the toilet itself. It's probably a toilet that's been there for 30 years.
Well, and toilets, quite honestly, are not that expensive. Like, if you are trying to be cheap about it, you can certainly get a toilet for under $150.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what Gino would get. He would get give me the standard cheap toilet. Yes.
Right.
Give me the toilet. Right. He's not going for Japanese toilets here, for sure.
No. So I'm just like, okay, how hard is it for 150? But I know, he doesn't have a job right now, but that also confuses me too. Like, Gino is no spring chicken, right? Like, he's going to be out of work for, a year? Who knows? A couple years? And it's like, he's not really at the age where you're coming back to work. He's at the age where you never come back because you're retired.
Yeah, it's one thing to take a leave of absence from your work, and it's another thing to take a leave of absence. Like, I don't know, he's 54, so like within 10 years of retirement, you'd assume.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because I don't disagree with her that the bathroom needs redone. Like renovating the bathroom is something that needs to happen. It's got linoleum tile after all, but I feel like he could better off be like, hey, we can do it now. It'll be okay. It'll be better. Or we can wait. And then he has to be able to give her a date until this date. And then we can do exactly what you want with the bathroom. But I kind of have an inside track of how much bathrooms cost. It's not cheap, right? He's probably going to have to pay $20,000 to get that bathroom redone, at least, if he wants it cheap. Like, it's going to be that much. It's not a cheap thing to do if you want it done right, if you want it done the way she's picturing it in her head, I think.
Yeah, because there is certainly one thing if you're like just replacing things like, oh, you're replacing like the sink or you're replacing the toilet and you're replacing the floor. Like, I don't know, but maybe Jasmine would be okay with that.
Yeah, the getting the tile put in, that's the expensive part. Like, that's I guess if you're just doing a lift and shoot, what do they call it? A rip and replace. That's what it is. If you're just doing a rip and replace, like maybe you can get, and you're doing a rip and replace, you get buying cheap stuff from Home Depot, you're okay. But like, I don't know that's what she's gonna want. Like, I feel like it's gonna be like, oh, let's rip and replace. She's gonna go to Home Depot and be like, these counters all suck. I want this marble counter that we need to get imported, like from wherever.
Oh, gosh.
It's gonna be like, oh, and she's gonna do that same thing. Don't you want your wife to have the sink that she wants? Like,
oh my goodness, yeah. I thought it was encouraging to see that she's thinking about money in terms of like, oh, hair extensions. That's going to be like a recurring cost. I'm going to stop that.
Yeah.
But, it's like, well, you're just replacing one expense for another.
Yeah. But she stopped it as a thing that's like something that needs to happen that I need Gino to give me money for right now. Now, I thought it's interesting. I don't know if I wonder how she's going to feel about Michigan in the summer, right? Because I don't know much about Panama's weather, but I would imagine being where it is in the world, it's probably consistent the whole year.
Yes. But I think but the weather in Michigan in the summer would be pretty consistent to Panama just in general.
Right. So I'm curious, is it because what you do is if you go into the winter if you go with the exception of where you are, everywhere else in the country, if you go somewhere in the winter and you're like, oh, it isn't too bad here, then in the summer, you're like, why is my face melting? My face is melting. Yeah. Like, this is awful. This is unbearable. Like, no matter where you go in the country, there's at least 3 months of a year where you're just like, oh, we don't go outside. Like, outside is not happening.
Right. Oh, goodness. So let's move on to Sophie and Rob. So Sophie is at the airport on her way to Los Angeles. Meanwhile, in LA, Rob is cleaning out his car in hopes of making trunk space for Sophie's stuff when he picks her up at the airport. He has big plans for how he's going to greet her at the airport, which includes a stereo. Even though they are engaged, there was no ring and no real proposal, so he plans on doing a dance with roses at the airport and a candlelit dinner at the house. Sophie complains about her trip, which included a very quick layover in New York. She's in the bathroom trying to freshen up as best as she can. Rob is waiting for her and running through the dance in his mind. Sophie sees Rob and he tells her to stop as he puts on music and then does a dance for her. Sophie starts off confused, and then Rob cut the dance short and runs to her with the bouquet of roses. She says it's corny. Mm-hmm. Sophie says that she would have said it was ew if it were anyone else, but because Rob is American, he can get away with that kind of corny stuff. He then gets down on one knee and proposes with a ring. Sophie is really surprised. He then puts the ring on the wrong finger because neither of them know which one it is. Sophie says she never thought about marriage growing up and only thought about it with Rob. She doesn't know why the proposal was at the airport, and Rob explains it's because they need to be officially engaged for her to be in the country. Rob is pretty proud of his romantic proposal. They get into an elevator to the parking lot, and Rob is pressing buttons, and Sophie thinks he broke it. Sophie is panicking, and Rob is being very whatever about the situation. Rob blames the weight of her bag for the elevator abruptly stopping and not being able to open. Sophie says that she's super tired and not happy about being stuck in this elevator and insists that it's his fault for pressing a bunch of buttons. They call the help button, and the operator resets the elevator and it opens up the door. Rob tells her to wait there as he will get the car and drive to her. Sophie ignores Rob, gets in the elevator again, and it works. Rob is annoyed that she got it to work and feels like she's just messing up his vibe. While on the way home, Sophie is concerned by some of the things she's seeing on the drive, which prompts her to ask Rob about the safety of the neighborhood. Sophie says this isn't anything like what she's used to. Cops are blocking off streets, and Rob points out that it's like a mile away from his house. They get to Rob's house, and she sees a cute dinner set up on the patio. Rob points out the dresser and the desk he got her when he's showing her around the place, which is literally standing in one place and just doing a circle. His place is a studio, and Sophie doesn't think it's super clean. Sophie hopes that they will get to move soon and she can decorate it and do it up nice. Sophie wants places to sit and to have touches of pink everywhere. Rob is trying to stay positive and let the negativity and judgment roll off his back. Sophie has figured out what the right finger for engagement ring is, and they agree that they will both have to learn more about weddings and marriage. They sit down to a taco dinner with churros, and then Rob makes some random joke about her liking a churro. Anyway, so what did you think about the elevator thing? Because
I mean, yeah, I think LAX is a janky ass airport, is what I think.
Well, that's not even a parking garage at LAX.
Oh,
that definitely.
I don't know. The trash can had the LAX logo on it, like right outside the airport. Yeah, right outside the elevator. I mean, so I think it was. I mean, there's just it's an old airport.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so like there's a lot of, and there are new parts too, but there's definitely some, and I'm sure he parked in the old janky ass parts, the oldest jankiest parking garage he could find near LAX for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, like that doesn't surprise me. I've certainly seen janky elevators in old buildings. I've been in them myself. I don't know if anyone is really to blame for that, but then at the same time, like, I don't know, just Rob should have just not let it bother him that she said, oh, you broke the elevator, and he goes, yeah, probably, but it was old, so
yeah it's like, sorry, the elevator can't handle me pushing buttons, I'm sorry,
right?
Like, but because neither one, like the elevator buttons, you push one button and it overrides the rest of it. There's nothing else you're doing, right, to break it. You're not breaking it with the buttons, but you're also not breaking it with her 60-pound bag. Like, when they're clearly, so if a third person would have gotten on it, would have broken the elevator, like they weigh more than the bag, right?
Right. So, yeah, he was trying to say like, oh, you're 2,000 pounds worth of stuff. And it's like, no, you're not getting 2,000 pounds on that little cart. Like, that's not happening. Right.
No. It was altogether maybe weighed as much as a person. Like, that's it.
Right.
But yeah, I also but I do get her frustration, not saying he broke the elevator, of just being like I got on. I was like, what are you doing? Just, it's an elevator. Why are you pushing so many buttons? What are you doing? Yeah. Like, why can't you why? I think they kept pulling the thing in and the door was shutting on it. I was like, have you not used an elevator before? Like, but I also think she didn't quite, I think there's a little bit of a thing there. Like, I'm familiar enough with British people that I understand that was her taking the piss, right? That was her, like, she wasn't actually like, God damn it, Rob, you broke this elevator. It was like, that's how they joke. Like, they gonna be mean about it, right? They're gonna be jokingly mean. That was actually something I looked at blind. I was like, British humor tends to be people being like, their sarcasm is people being intentionally mean, like saying overly mean things, whereas American sarcasm is more like people saying overly dumb things, right?
That's interesting. I definitely think I've got that British side from my mom. It's like, oh, I was only joking.
Yeah, but it is. They say something really mean and you're joking. Whereas Americans, people will say something really dumb. They're like, oh my God, do you believe it? You're like, no, I don't believe that. It was a joke. What are you talking about? Why would you think I thought that, right? And so I think that goes into it. But I don't know. Rob's a pretty sensitive dude. Like that could be tough dating a British person if you have thin skin, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll tell you what bothered me about Rob. This is the one thing I noticed from their entire segment is that he was propping his trunk open with a 2x4.
Oh my gosh.
Like what that to me is just that's very emblematic of the kind of person Rob is. Like he's just half-assed solutions, not really following things all the way through, right? Which is what she's worried about with him is like she's going to be stuck in this janky-ass apartment with his janky-ass car with a 2x4 in the trunk to hold it open. And it's just, I think it's pointing in a bad direction.
Yeah, definitely. But overall, I thought their segment was a little on the boring side.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and then, of course, there's the overreacting about like, just like there being, there's police. I'm scared. There's no police in England. Like there's police in London. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
Like, do you hear gunshots in London? No. Are there police that pull people over and have issues in London? Yeah. It's a major city for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So moving on, let's go to Nicole and Justin for now. We'll talk about that in a second. So okay. Nicole is packing up her tallest heels to bring some, as she says, fabulosity with her to Moldova. So it's been 9 months since she's seen Justin, and she's on her way over to Moldova to see him. So her mother, Myrna, is coming over to help her pack, and she says it's a switch of roles since the last time her and Justin had a K1 when Myrna at that time was more doubtful and Nicole is more optimistic. Now the tables have turned. So Nicole tells us about her rocky past that her and Myrna have had, mostly related to her transition. So eventually, Myrna did grow to accept Nicole for who she is, and now they're very close. So Myrna is concerned with some of the outfit selections she's packing up. Hopefully, maybe Nicole can pick some things that are less Nikki and more Nicole. Remember, she has that Nikki Exotica thing. Yeah. So because she's worried that the people of Moldova maybe are not as accepting of people that stand out as the people in New Jersey are. So Myrna asks if Nicole is worried about meeting up with his parents again, because this is going to be the first time that she's going to have met or been talked with or have a relationship with the parents now that they know she's trans. So how are they going to react? It's up in the air. And that segues into a confessional from Myrna admitting regret for the way that she handled how things were when Nicole was going through her transition. They basically didn't talk for 3 years. So she hopes Justin and his parents are going to do better than she did. But maybe they won't, because she's already hearing from Justin that he is getting a lot of pushback from friends about even being with her. But Myrna points out that, if he really didn't care for her, if he didn't really have feelings for her, then he wouldn't have told everybody everything. They wouldn't know, right? And why would he get pushback? So maybe he's more worried about the culture of Moldova than the specific relationships he has with his friends and family. So Myrna thinks that no matter how hard this is, things are going to be fine. You're going to get married. It'll all work out. But of course, the vague hesitation that Nicole is sensing from him is making her maybe not want to even go through with everything. So then we switch over to Justin, who introduces himself as Igor. He says, "My name is Igor." So as far as I'm concerned, this is Igor. I'm saying Igor from now on.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. So he lives in Chisinau, Moldova, and he's 36. So we see him working out at the playground, he explains the name thing about how, everybody, my friends and family all call me Igor, but Nicole, she calls me Justin because she thinks we met. I look like Justin Timberlake. And then they throw up a picture of Justin Timberlake and his face side by side. And
hair, that was the only thing they had similar.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, you know who he looked like? He looked like Eminem in that picture.
Yeah, I could see that. That was definitely more celebrity look-alike than him and Justin Timberlake.
Yes. Because
it wasn't even hair texture. Because
Justin Timberlake had those curls and everything. Yeah.
It was more like hair color.
Yes, he had frosted tips, and so she was like, "You're Justin Timberlake."
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, he works as a personal trainer, so he spends a lot of time working out. He says not to, it's not a vain thing. He doesn't do it to look good, but he does it to feel good, like Universal Soldier, which by the way, is his Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, just for people who didn't know. So he's nervous about Nicole visiting because people in Moldova can be pretty narrow-minded about trans people. And Nicole not only is trans, but really goes out of her way to get attention from people. So it makes him worried about her safety. So he's got to talk to somebody on camera about it. So we get to his friend Sergey. Sergey knows everything, so he's a good person to talk to. So they get some coffee, and it's like an outdoor park coffee shop, and there's chessboard. So we get coffee and a chessboard and sit down for a chat and a game. So Igor tells Sergey about how nervous he is, even though by this point, everyone, all the friends, all the family know that Nicole is trans. So Sergey talks about how dumbfounded he was when he found out and asks Igor, like, well, how did you find out? What did it happen? So Igor says that when it did happen, he was pretty traumatized, especially since they had been intimate many times. And he was like, I had no idea. Like, we had sex. So he says he packed his things up and just came home. So Igor says it took him a few years of reflection just to kind of come to terms with what happened and like come to think of her as a friend. And then a few years after that, deciding to try again for the relationship, this time with his eyes completely open. So eventually, after they're not really paying much attention to their chess game, like they're really talking and barely playing chess, Igor shows Sergey a picture of Nicole, and Sergey says she looks like a bombshell. Like she actually looks a lot more feminine than a lot of the women in Moldova. But, of course, she's going to draw a lot of attention, with her bold pink lips and everything like that. But, he doesn't think that people are going to be able to tell that she's trans. So to test this theory, they go ask a group of old men who are sitting back there and be like, hey, what do you think about his girlfriend? What do you think, huh? And they're like, and all the old gross old guys are like, oh, yeah, she's pretty hot. Oh, yeah. So she might draw attention for other reasons, but Igor's kind of like he is trying to avoid a situation where she draws attention for other reasons, and then things go sour when people find out that she's trans. So we meet Igor, and we kind of hear the version of his side of the story. So, kind of whose side are you on regarding how things are going? Do you think he's all in, like he says he is, or is he kind of 1 foot out the door, like Nicole seems to think he might be?
I don't think he's 1 foot out the door. But what I would say is I am struggling to see how these people are together.
Sure.
Like their personalities are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I would even say their look is completely different. Not that that really has anything to do with anything, but their age is completely different. It seems like just how they view like life seems to be completely different. I don't understand. And I think it's going to be one of those things where I'm just going to have to see them in person to see, does this couple make sense?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, on paper, they seem very, very different from each other, for sure.
Yes. And I would think that his initial reaction to things is how I would kind of think of him, like, how he would see things. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was actually really interesting that when he was saying that he was doing his reflection, how he really wanted to understand where she was coming from and understand her perspective. And, like he said, he got into meditation to think about like himself and his views. And I just thought that was like very interesting and definitely didn't really kind of seem, if you're judging a book by its cover, someone who he gives off the kind of vibe like he's very traditional. And you know what I think part of it is? I think there is somewhat of I don't want to say a bias, but maybe like a prejudgment, because when I think of Moldova, I think of Andre.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah. And Andre, and like the kind of person that he is. And it's just like, I can never imagine an Andre being this open-minded about anything.
And saying like, literally like, not even open-minded about things, but open-minded about changing his mind.
Right. Yes.
And
being like, well, maybe I was the one who was wrong. Maybe I'm the one who needs to change my thinking.
Right. Yeah. No, Andre would never do that in 1,000 years.
Right.
No.
Right.
No. You are all wrong. You're all idiots. You stupid idiots should just agree with me because I'm smart and you're idiots.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's true. It's definitely. I definitely think kind of his story kind of so shows how much the like interplay between like, you know, transphobia and homophobia and like internalized homophobia for guys is just like really, really poisonous and toxic, right?
Yeah.
Because it literally was like he found out that he had sex with somebody that was born a man, and it was just like, oh my God, am I gay? Do I hate myself? Oh my God. Like, right. It was just, it took him years to come over to like, but that was a trauma that was years worth of work to overcome for him. And it's like, that is really limiting for people.
Right. And also, like, I just felt bad for him, too, because he said that when he came back and told his close friends what had happened, they judged him, too, even though he didn't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't know either. I think she met him in Moldova, right? And so it was, they probably saw her. Like, it's one of those things that it was like, yeah, like, I mean, again, transphobic people say it all the time. Oh, we always know. And it's like, but you don't. Like, but you don't always know. We can always tell. I was like, no, you can't. Like, but in terms of getting aside from that, I think you're just the nuts and bolts of them as a couple is very, very tricky. Like he doesn't seem like the kind of person who wants to stand out from the crowd. And that's literally all she ever wants to do is stand out from the crowd. Right. And that is just a very hard tension to, you know, independent of anybody's status as cis and trans, like that's very difficult to manage as a couple when one person is like, I want all the attention, and the other person is like, and it's not just from each other, right? From other people. I want attention from everybody. I want to walk into a room and have everybody look at me, and the other person is like, that's awful. I would never want that in my life. Like, how do you make that work as a couple?
Yeah. I really don't want him to be a garbage person either, because I will say that I think this is probably the best looking dude that's ever been on this show.
Ever? I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a pretty good looking guy, although more Eminem than Justin Timberlake. But
oh gosh, well, that was not a good look. I think his haircut now definitely helps his case. But I'm trying to think of anyone. I mean, for the most part, there's a bunch of troll dudes on this show, right? They're not a good-looking bunch for the most part.
No. And
there's been a couple that like stand out just because they're better looking than the rest. But I actually think this guy is legit probably the best looking guy that's been on the show.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look through a lot of them are very much like, yes, no, they're especially when you go to the early seasons, it's like the people who are like, well, all of the women in America told me I was an ugly troll, so I started going into the Philippines, and we have like those type of people early on. But I think part of it is some of the people that you might at first look seem like they could be attractive, all of a sudden just turn out to be just garbage people, and you're like not attractive anymore because they're garbage. Like
yeah, I'm sure that's part of it too. So I'm like, please don't be a garbage person.
I hope not. I mean, for first impressions as it goes, like I thought he came off pretty sweet,
well.
Pretty self-aware. Like, I thought he came off pretty well, for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Ashley and Manuel. So we continue where we left off from the last time, where Ashley is freaking out and on the verge of tears and hyperventilating, which, by the way, I'm still confused why she's reacting this way, but whatever. She's anxious because she hasn't been in contact with Manuel because he was on his flight, and she's worried if he made it at all. Her sister Sienna meets her in the parking lot and helps her to calm down. Ashley is rushing through the airport with her sister literally in tow behind her. They stake out a place where they think they will see him. Ashley is worrying that he isn't on his flight as she's nervously fidgeting and bouncing around. She finally sees him coming down the escalator and cries and runs to him. He asks why she's crying, but they just hug and he tells her to be happy. He thanks her for waiting for him. Ashley is so relieved. She messy kisses him and leaves lipstick all over his face during the interview. Manuel jokes that he asked immigration to give him 120 days to get married instead of 90, because as we all know, 90 days just isn't enough time. Manuel says that this is his first time flying and he was very nervous. Manuel notes that he thought there would be less nature, but he thinks Rochester is cute with pretty houses. He immediately notices her space for meditation as they walk up to the house. Manuel greets the dog, Rico Suave, but he isn't thrilled about the cat, Lyra. He said that he only used cats to catch mice, but he can't fathom having one around to just feed. Ashley is trying to introduce Manuel to her witchy stuff, as she puts it. She shows him around, and Manuel asks why she took off the door to their room. And Manuel doesn't like that because the dog and the cat can just get in bed. Manuel thinks that everyone has their place, and the pets, they actually belong outside. Ashley says that Rico Suave has been around much longer than any of her partners, and Rico can sleep wherever the heck he wants. Manuel is used to telling people what to do, but Ashley says that she comes from a family of strong, independent women of color, and she's not going to let someone tell her what to do. She then cries, saying that the dog is sleeping with them. Manuel says that he knows that they're not married, but if they're going to be together, she can't be the only one making decisions. It ends up that the first night, Rico jumped on the bed and Manuel tried to tell him to sleep on the floor, and Ashley says, you know, he's not going to win that fight, and the dog ended up sleeping in the bed. She then tries to talk to Manuel about being a witch, and Manuel doesn't think that she's actually a witch because witches do harm. He thinks that witches would cast spells to get people to do what she wants, but he knows she doesn't do that. Ashley says that he's misunderstanding what a witch is. They are interrupted by food delivery. Emmanuel then reads a definition from the internet about what a witch is, and Ashley disagrees with the definition and just wants to eat in peace. She says that she needs some air and goes for a smoke. Ashley says that they're not seeing eye to eye because Manuel has a very old school view of what a witch is, but she insists that she is a witch. Manuel says that this is going to be really hard because he is Catholic. Ashley says he needs to get to a place of understanding if they're going to get married because she won't marry someone who doesn't respect her. All right, so this kind of is going the way we thought it was going to go. We definitely... you know, predicted that Manuel, based on the country, was going to be Catholic.
Right.
And that Catholics definitely don't think that witches are good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that there's fundamental problems, you know, relating to the religion. What is... I'm confused what Ashley's definition of a witch is. I get that he is putting a negative connotation on it, like they do harm.
Right?
Yeah. So I get that that's not, but what does she think a witch does?
So, I mean, she just sees being a witch, saying you're a witch, isn't any different from saying I'm a Muslim or I'm a Jew or I'm a Catholic, right? It's just a religion that she has, right? And the practitioners of this religion are called witches, right? And it involves whatever things it involves. Like, she considers that her religion. She calls it spirituality or whatever. She might not use the word religion, but for all intents and purposes, that's what it is, right? And so,
but I guess I'm confused. Like, what does this religion believe in?
Well,
what's their angle? What do they value?
I don't know. I'm sure it has somebody. Usually, I don't know if it actually is Wicca, if it's related to Wicca. I don't know what the actual like belief structure is, but it is, you know, has things to do with nature spirits and things like that, and not a necessarily Abrahamic like single God or polytheism. It's like, and so I'm not exactly sure what that religion entails, but it is a like actual religion that people practice. And he is just like to him, and I wish you would kind of explain it that way. It's like, this is my thing, because he's like, I'm a witch, and to him, it's like she says, well, I'm a werewolf. And he's like, yeah, but you don't turn into a wolf at the full moon. Right. She's like, yeah, but I'm a werewolf. And he's like, but werewolves turn into a wolf, and you don't do that. And like, the definition of a werewolf is someone that and so they're just having a semantic argument and not realizing it's a semantic argument, right? Because to him, it's like, definition of witch, an evil woman. And he's like, when you're not evil, so therefore you're not a witch, right? Because to him, it's a myth, like a mythological thing that he's talking about. And her, she's like, this is my religion. They're just having a different conversation.
Right. Okay, so I feel like there's something wrong with Ashley. And it's not necessarily the witchiness of it, but it's just like she seems so like emotionally unstable to me. I could not understand like why she was freaking out as much as she was freaking out, like hyperventilating, like on the verge of tears. I couldn't even tell, was she like anxious? Was she scared? Was she just like, you know, like emotional about like having him beat? I could not figure her out. All I knew is that she was a hot emotional train wreck this entire episode.
I mean, no, I feel like she was nervous. She was, you know, nervous he wasn't going to be there, nervous about things were going to go well, that he was going to get rejected, sent back. And so she had this underlying frustration. And I've known plenty of women who, when they start crying, are just like pissed that they're crying, and that makes them cry worse. And then they're just in this cycle of like crying worse, because you could see she was like hyperventilating, like, and then she was like starting to cry about getting angry. And then you could see her look into the camera on her dashboard, realize that this was on camera, and then going, oh God, this is on camera. Oh shit. And it just got way worse, like immediately. Like as soon as she realized her hyperventilating was on camera and it looked bad, that made it worse. And like, she just got into like a spiral. She was spiraling. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so
it's not a good look, because quite honestly, my takeaway from this episode is this woman's unhinged.
Oh, see, it's funny.
Like,
my takeaway from this episode is Manuel might be the most stubborn person we've ever seen on the show.
Oh gosh.
Like he very much is. We talked about it in Andre. Like, I have an opinion. Of course, my opinion's right, and everybody else's opinion is stupid. Like,
yeah, well, I don't think this is a good match, and I honestly don't see this going very far.
It's one thing to have the thing about witches and stuff, which, by the way, the funny thing I thought about it is, you know, he said for his witch was like, oh, well, how could she have an ex if she's a witch? Because if that person wanted to break up with her. You would
never have an ex.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could put a spell on them and they would come back to you.
And so I thought about this, and I'm going to get too personal, but he might think you're a witch. You're like, you have gotten back together with an ex, therefore,
oh gosh,
you must have cast a spell on this person and made him a witch. But like, first of all, Howard, this is a show that is watched by mostly. I know the character. It's a middle-aged woman show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and the first thing they showed up Manuel doing was being like, "Why would anybody have a cat? Cats are dumb. It's stupid. Like, why would you? There's a mouth to feed. Like, really? You're gonna shit on cats on this show? I don't think that's that is designed to get the audience going. But like the thing that put me over the top though with his stubbornness was he was shitting over hot water. He was like, who the fuck needs hot water? That's dumb. Why would you even hot water? This is, ugh.
You're going to wash your dishes with hot water?
Yeah. He was just like.
Wash like your clothes with hot water?
And that's the thing.
Why?
Is like the completely, and that's where he's stubborn. He's incurious. Like, ooh, hot water. I wonder, does it work better? Like, then he's just like, what? You stupid Americans pay money to get hot water in your house. What is wrong with you? My God. Like that was his, like, think about it. The dog sleeping in the bed. Like,
yeah, I feel like he could just chill with cold showers then.
Well, I'm sure that's what he's been exposed to. Right. And
yeah.
I do feel like it was like, well, let me give you a week of taking hot showers, and then we'll see how you feel about what you feel about the hot water in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, I don't know. But I think it's going to be now. One thing I will say about her though, her Spanish was good.
Yeah. Pretty decent.
And so we don't have that. Well, at least it was good enough. Let's put it that way. It was in between. It was good enough that they understood each other the whole time. There was no translation app or anything like that. But I think the subtleties over the word bruja was pretty much their entire argument, like of what the different connotations of that specific word, which is which is valid. Like there's different connotations to different words, and if it was a different way to put it, maybe I wonder what the practitioners of her religion in that part of the world, if there are any, call themselves. Do they use the word witch? Do they say something else? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea, but I just honestly, this very much reminds me of Molly and Luis, and I feel like we're gonna have very, very similar.
I can see that.
Yeah, like the trajectory of their relationship, I think is gonna be pretty.
Well,
similar.
and I wonder. It made me wonder because we've still only seen 4 couples out of 7. I think they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
and so that makes me curious if there's going to be some quick flame outs. And then we'll replace them as the series as it goes along.
Yeah.
All right. Is that? Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's everybody.
It was everyone.
We covered everybody now because we said only 4 couples this time. So, students of the week. Who was your student of the week?
Oh goodness, I don't even know if I thought of one yet.
Okay.
Student of the week. I'll go with Igor.
Yeah, that's what I did. I said Igor too.
Yeah. I mean, other than being the best looking guy we've had on the show, I appreciated that he did some self-reflection and didn't just, take the news that he is the victim and then just moved on. Right? He really took time to learn more about it, to meditate on it, to really try to gain different perspectives. And I really appreciated that about him.
Oh, and you know who else was pretty cool too? I went with Igor too because he's main cast. Is Sergey. Was very the reports to him was I don't get it. I don't understand. But if this is what we're doing, but he was supportive. Even though he didn't understand, he was still supportive.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what about your dunce?
I said Manuel. How are you going to move to, because if this was the other way, right? If we had gone the other way and it was an American coming in and just telling the person that everything in their house was dumb, this is dumb. Why would you do that? That's gross. This is that's bad. I don't want to do things. And then at the end of the day, when they insisted on one thing, being well, she's not going to be allowed to make all the decisions. This is absurd. We trashing them. If you go, he just was trashing American culture from the entire time he was there.
Yeah. So that's funny that you should say Manuel because I went Ashley. I just felt like she was an emotional hot mess. I felt like she, didn't take time to talk out their argument. She was just trying to shut it down and avoid it almost. Yeah. The whole thing where it's Rico Suave is going to sleep where he wants. And that's just it. I don't know. Not everybody. And I kind of side with Manuel on this. I love dogs, but I don't think dogs should be sleeping in the bed.
76% of people have dogs sleep in the bed with them.
Oh my gosh,
have dogs.
That's so many.
I looked it up. When we were watching the show.
Yeah, I've only ever had a big dog, and there's no way that dog could have slept in the bed. We would have had to get a way bigger bed. There's just no way. So, I mean, I get it. Rico is a little bit smaller. He's he's a small pup. But, I don't know. I get it.
I mean, it's one thing, whatever you do with a dog, you have to make the decision when you get the dog. It actually does seem, I don't care if people have their dogs on their beds or not. If people crate train their dog and their dog always sleeps in the crate, good job. Fantastic. That's your choice. I don't think that's cruel. I think it's cruel to take an adult dog that's always been sleeping in a bed with you and then force it into a crate. That's dicey to me. It's kind of like if it was crate trained as a puppy and that's what it always knows. Because I know people who have crate trained dogs, and when they're it's time to go to bed, that's where they want to sleep. That's the only place they do want to sleep is in that crate. Yeah. Right. And that's fine. But to kick the dog out of the bed because somebody moved in is, I don't know, that doesn't seem like good dog ownership things for an adult dog. And she's an old dog too.
Yeah, that's true. Been around enough for a bunch of different partners. So
Right. All right. Life lessons. So I said, my bite, I don't know if that's going I flush your toilet, especially when a girl is coming over.
Oh my gosh.
Clean your toilet. What? I mean, I don't think he cleaned it. I don't think you said the brush. I think the brush wouldn't get everything that was in there, but would get stuff. It would do some damage to that stain. But I literally do not understand how there's a turd floating in your toilet. I don't get it. Never, it smells. I don't understand. You get up and flush the toilet. It's so confusing.
I know.
I was so confused.
Yeah, so my life lesson was actually aimed towards Rob because he seemed to be very impressed with himself over this proposal. And Sophie was just kind of like so-so about it, right?
She was right. It was corny as fuck. It was so corny. Oh my God.
Right. And he was like patting himself on the back, like, this is so romantic. And Sophie's just kind of like, oh my God, if this had been anyone else, I would have been like, oh. Yeah. But it's like, consider who the proposal is for. You know, and try to do something to impress that person, not the person you think, I don't know, that you know, what you think is romantic. Try and impress yourself. Because Rob was certainly impressed with himself.
Oh, he was,
but I don't think Sophie was really.
Man, his shoulder was tired from patting himself on the back over that. Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But that was not Sophie's thing. So I don't think she definitely thought the same way about the engagement.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So we're just getting started with this group. Do we know of any other couples that are going to be on this?
I'm sure I'm trying not to, spoil myself and get ahead online, but I know that there is other people. I know one of them has a mom that lives in the closet.
Oh gosh.
I know there's that.
Wow.
There was another like weird thing going on too with another one, but I know they definitely have seen previews where it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, literally opens their closet and mom is in there knitting. It's like, oh God.
Oh, I think I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we'll be back next week, maybe with the new couple, definitely with these couples because we've seen them in the previews. Yep. And so until then.
All right. See everybody then.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.